Benghazi is a place almost no American has ever been, but we all know the name. And a new movie called 13 Hours will certainly help us learn more about that fateful day and night. But we can also learn a lot about it by talking to two of the men who were there that night and now share their story, John Tiegen and Mark Geist. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right, Mark, you spent about a dozen years as a Marine and eventually became a police chief in your hometown in Colorado. And John, you are a former Marine sergeant who had already done security work in Iraq and Afghanistan. So to start, both of you, up until that day, that fateful day of September 11th of 2012, was there anything different about this posting or about this city?
No, I mean, you know, to us, we always treated every day as a high threat. So, you know, to us, every day was the same. You know, to kind of give people a feel on kind of how it was there is kind of like, you know, back in the 60s when the mobs were running Chicago, is kind of pretty much how it was there in Benghazi.
Any thoughts on that, Mark?
John kind of hit the nail right on the head. I mean, you had multiple militias trying to vie for control of either the airport, the seaport, commerce. I mean, you know, basically large, overly armed gangs trying to, you know, run the people.
Yes.
I mean, because the people of Benghazi, most of them were great people. I mean, they would say hi to you on the street. They would shake your hand. But you know, you got that one bit.
Yeah. What was the first sign of trouble that day, and where were each of you at that time?
I was out working. Me and a female case officer were out having dinner with a Libyan couple.
Okay.
And when I got a call on the radio from Tyrone Woods, or Roan, that said, hey, you need to get back to the annex and stay away from the consulate.
Okay.
And
how far away was the annex from the consulate? We've seen the maps, but
3/4 of a mile as a crow flies.
A little bit less than. So he's told you, stay away. Already stay away.
Yes, because where I was at was, the consulate was kind of in between where I was at and the annex. So we left, took a roundabout way to get back to the annex, so we didn't run into impromptu checkpoints or stay away from the trouble, because I was by myself.
Did he tell you beyond that what kind of trouble they were dealing with?
No, and I didn't need to know at that point.
Sure.
Him calling me in the middle of a meeting was enough to alert me that there was something significant going on, and didn't need to put out any more information than necessary.
So then you headed to the annex?
Yes.
All right, John, what was your story at that time?
I mean, I was at the annex, actually getting ready to, you know, go to bed, and the team leader calls us on the radio and tells us all to come to the team room. Met him halfway in between my barracks, my sleeping quarters, and the and the command post, and said, hey, state's been overrun.
Okay.
And that's how we found out.
How quickly did it all go downhill?
Yeah, I think it went downhill for the state guys immediately. I mean, they were just totally caught off guard, and you know, 1 minute they knew they were around the pool, you know, smoking cigars, and next thing they knew they were pinned down in their rooms.
Did you assume that additional help was going to be on the way?
Well, we knew for them it was, because we were going to go and help them. But you know, for us, you know, if it was just us there, we wouldn't have expected any outside help. But since the U.S. ambassador was there, we expected something to come from the government, from the from the military.
Okay. Tell me then about responding to the consulate itself.
You know, we got ready to go about 5 minutes, about 15 minutes into it. We got the stand down order from the chief of base. We waited about another 10 minutes, and the state guys, they came over the radio and said, hey, if you guys don't get here, we're all going to die. And that was the last straw for us, and we took off, went over to the consulate.
This was despite the stand down order?
Yes. I mean, when that radio call came, it ain't like we didn't, you know, ask permission again. We didn't tell them we were leaving. We just left.
And who was it that gave the stand down order?
The chief of base at the annex, Bob.
And why had he given that order?
He's just a risk adverse.
Okay.
I mean, he's done that on multiple occasions. You know, I mean, I can think of 5 really easily that he did to me while I was there when we should have left.
Right.
But you know, we got over there. We repelled the initial attackers. Searched for the ambassador for about 2 hours. We got counter assaulted. Repelled that assault. We had to, at that point, it came down to where, you know, we didn't know if the ambassador was still there. We didn't know if he had been kidnapped prior to us getting there. And, you know, if he was inside the building, there was no way he was still alive. So we had to either sit there and defend it or get back to our compound.
Could you describe the situation around the consulate itself? How many attackers roughly were there? How heavily armed were they? And all of that.
Well, one of the still photos that they had from the security camera, there was about 40 attackers in one of the photos. They had RPGs and AKs. I believe the state.
One or two of them, or a lot of them?
I don't really know. I think they said the majority of them were armed.
Okay.
And we had 3 guys initially entering the consulate, to repel the 40 plus attackers. So
right.
they took off. They lit 2 of the buildings were completely engulfed in flames. One of them was where the ambassador and Sean Smith were. And, like I said, we either, you had the 6 of us that were there defending it, and it was either stay or go, and we had to make the decision, so we had to leave.
How long was this firefight?
The whole entire night.
Yes. Particularly from the time, A, from the first time of the attack, and then B, from the time you arrived.
Well, we didn't get to the consulate until I'd say about an hour after the initial attack, because we got delayed that first 25, 30 minutes, and then took us about another 30 minutes to get onto the compound grounds.
Okay, let me jump in so you can share some of your thoughts as well as to what was going on. As you arrived, what did you see and where did you go?
I arrived back at the annex, and it was then my responsibility just to make sure that the people there were safe in case we got attacked at the same time.
Right.
And during that time, it was, I could hear what's going on over the radio. I could see what's happening in the distance. You can see the flames. You could see the glow of the fire. And then the State Department guys had left and from the consulate made their way back over, and they had came through and ended up getting ambushed on the way over. Their vehicle got shot up pretty bad. And then, as John said, they ended up, they made the decision to leave the consulate and come back over. And when they got back, everybody took up their defensive positions, and we started hearing vehicle traffic and people moving in around our perimeter. And we started seeing people come up with guns, and that's when the first attack happened there.
All right, so ultimately then how did you repel them?
Small arms fire, we had night vision devices so we could see them, they couldn't see us.
Right.
And there was, on the side where the attack was really coming from, there was 4 of us. The rest of the guys were covering the other parts of the perimeter, and they probably come at us the first attack with 10 to 20 guys. We repelled that one. They come back again about an hour later.
Hour later?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had probably double that. And then we kind of had a lull till about 5:30 in the morning when the final attack came.
Were you ever able at that point, at what point did you quit having radio contact with any of the 4? The 4 who died?
Well, two of the 4 that died didn't die until the mortar attack that I got injured in that happened about 5:30 in the morning. The ambassador and Sean Smith, they had found Sean Smith's body in the ambassador's building, but couldn't find the ambassador. He had died of smoke inhalation, and they brought his body back over to the annex when they exfilled from the consulate.
And so it was that final mortar attack that took the additional 2 lives,
yes,
of the other 2 Americans. And then what happened? At that point, with the first light of day, how did you finally get them out of there? Now, go ahead.
Well, what happened is, after the final mortar attack, we had a group that of GRS, the same guys that we are. We had a team up in Tripoli, and they actually came from Tripoli about 1 o'clock in the morning as support to help locate the ambassador.
Okay.
Once it was identified that he was, we had heard that he was at the hospital, they couldn't get to there because Ansar al-Sharia, the terrorist group that was attacking us, had basically taken over the hospital with their dead and wounded.
When did you, when it was all over, when did you first hear the narrative that it was all a response to a YouTube video, and what was your reaction to that, both of you?
I was in hospital in Germany when I first heard it. It was really of no concern to me at that time because I knew it's our government, they're going to say what they're going to say, and at that point I was more worried about me just getting better and not worrying about all of that.
John?
We were in Germany, and we had the State Department security guys with us while we were there, and we got to talk with them and how everything, how it transpired there, and they're kind of like a video. I mean, there was no, they're saying there was no protest. We didn't hear any chanting until they were actually already on the compound.
Right. And what do you want us finally to remember about Ambassador Stevens, Sean Smith, Tyrone Woods, and Glenn Doherty?
Well, the biggest thing is, why we wrote the book and why, with the help of Paramount, them seeing our vision and what really happened there, and the director, Michael Bay, because what's got lost in this whole narrative is the politics have overtaken this story and it's gotten spun in different directions. But we have 4 Americans who served overseas, gave their lives protecting and serving this country, and they haven't been honored in the way that we feel that they should be honored. And the story got hijacked, in my view, and we wanted to make sure that the story as we lived it and what they did and the sacrifices that they made that night are not lost in the political fighting of the left and the right.
And I understand, John, that really the only criteria you guys had was that the story be told truthfully.
Yes.
Yep, we'll leave the politics out of it.
All right. Well, we appreciate your service, both of you.
Thank you.
And for all that you've done for the country. We also appreciate you coming forward to share this story, and we certainly look forward to either reading about it or seeing it.
Hey, thank you very much. I hope people come out there, no matter what they've heard, I hope they come out and see the movie and then hear what happened that night and then make your decision based on that, not on what you've heard in the media.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you very much.
John,
Yes, sir.
thanks.
Thank you.